Hello everyone. Today we're going to cover the next two skills in the unit fractions, decimals, and percentages, starting with ordering rational numbers and then finishing with adding and subtracting rational numbers. So let's start with ordering rational numbers. It says, which of the following numbers are greater than or equal to 4/7? So the first thing we need to do is determine what is the decimal value for 4/7. So as you can recall, in order to convert a fraction to a decimal, we're just going to drop our numerator inside and divide. I'm just going to put my decimal up top because I know I'm going to get a decimal answer. So 7 can't go into 4, but it can go into 45 times. That gives us 35 with a remainder of 5. So I'm going to bring another 0 down. 7 goes into 50. 7 times. We get a remainder of 1. Let's bring maybe one more 0 down. And then 7 goes into 10 one time. And this is going to keep going and going. But we have a good idea of where this number would fall somewhere on a number line. So it says, which of the following numbers are greater than or equal to 4/7? Well, to convert 2/5 to a decimal, I'm going to multiply both by 2. And that gives us 4/10, which is equal to 0.4. Let's just add a couple zeros since we took the other one out 3 places. Here we have 0.57. I'm just going to add a 0 since we took the other one out 3 places. That'll help us when we're comparing. And then the last one is 2/3. That's a benchmark fraction, so we should all know that that's 0.6 repeating. And I'm just going to put a bar over that last 6 to show that that's a repeating decimal. So we're looking for the numbers that are greater than or equal to 4/7, which is 0.571. So obviously A doesn't work because if you look at the number in your tens place, it's a 4, and we're looking for a 5, as you can see up top. Here we've got 570. So all the numbers are the same up until the thousandths place. So this one's a 0 and this one's a 1, which means that 4/7 is a greater number. So B doesn't work. So the only one that's greater here in this case is answer choice C. But you have to be careful and make sure you go through all of them because it does say choose all that apply. Let's try another one. Order the following numbers from least to greatest. So this is one where you're going to have to drag them. Again, we need to know what our decimal equivalents are. So let's start with -14 and 1/5. Well, I'm going to just try to get 10 in the denominator. So that's -14 and 2/10, which we know 2/10 means -14.2. Here we have -14.4 and then -14.04. So to determine which one's the smallest, we have to look at the number that's in this tens place. So I've got a 4, a 0, and a 2. So clearly the smallest number out of all of these, well, actually no, we're dealing with the negative side. Hang on a second here. We're talking about the negative side. So remember, we're looking for the number that's furthest to the left. So if you think of the numbers on a number line, let's actually draw a number line. Let's see, if I'm at, let's put -13 here. We'll put -14 here and -15. So if you think of -14.2, that's going to be somewhere right around here, which means -14.4 is going to be furthest to the left, and -14.04, that would be the closest to -14. So that means the smallest number out of these would be -14.4, so that would go first. Next after that would be -14.2, or -14 and 1/5. And the one closest to 0, or the largest, would be -14.04. So if we were to order them, we would have -14.4, then -14 and 1/5, and lastly we would have -14.04. Okay, let's try another one. The heights of 3 students are given in the following table. Order the students from shortest to tallest. So this one's a little bit easier because they're all positive. So I see that I've got a couple of mixed numbers here, and we know 2/3 is a repeating decimal of 1.6 repeating. So I'm going to take that out 2 places since this is also going out 2 places. 3 goes into 4 one time, so this would be 1 1/3, which is equivalent to 1.3 repeating. So we're going to take that out 2 places as well. So clearly the smallest out of the 3, or the shortest, would be Deandra. After Deandra would be Jonte. And then the tallest out of the 3 would be Tathis. Match the numbers with the correct label. Okay, so the first thing, we've got 3 different numbers here. We've got -0.2, -3/7, and -2/8. Well, -2/8, if I simplify that, is -1/4, which would equal -0.25. I'm going to take this out 2 decimal places. And then 3/7 we need to convert to a decimal. So let's go ahead and do that division step. We know it's a negative, so I'm going to drop the 3 inside, and we're going to divide. 7 can't go into 3, but it can go into 30 4 times. That leaves us with 28, a remainder of 2. Bring the 0 down. 7 goes into 20 2 times. We get a remainder of 6. And 7 goes into 68 times. So I'm going to actually round this one up because it's 5 and above. We give it a shove. So let's write -0.43 for this one. Now we've taken them all out to the hundredths place. So when you think about your number line, the number that's the largest in your tenths place is going to be the furthest from 0. So that means that A has to be -3/7. And now we're comparing -0.20, -0.25. So out of those 2 numbers, which one will be closest to 0 on the number line? Well, if you think about it, we've got to look at our hundredths place. Let's do that in green. Remember, the smaller the absolute value is, the closer to 0 it is. So clearly, -0.20 is your smallest number out of all, which means it has to be the point that's closest to 0, which would be C. So we're going to draw a line. Oops. Drew my line in the wrong spot. So this one would go down to C, and that means that -1/4 has to be B, or -2/8 rather. Okay, let's move into adding and subtracting rational numbers. So in this case, they're going to give you decimals, fractions, possibly percentages, and you're going to have to convert them all to 1. Now, I prefer to work with decimals. If you'd rather work with fractions, you can convert them to fractions. You'll notice that in these examples, though, you're going to notice that I convert everything to a decimal. So we've got -1.2 minus, well, I'm going to multiply both of these by 5, because that's going to give me 100 in my denominator. And then 29 times 5 is 145. So if I have 145 over 100, that means my decimal will be 1.45. 2 zeros, we scoop in 2 places. It's the same thing as dividing 145 by 100. So that leaves me with -1.2 minus 1.45, which we need to keep, change. And now I have same signs, which means I'm going to add and keep. So my answer is going to be a negative. And down here, I'm just going to set up my addition problem. Remember to line your decimals up. So that leaves us with -2.65 as our answer. Let's try another one. We have -93% plus 0.3. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my percentage and convert it to a decimal. Now, if you can recall from back in the beginning, I taught you that little trick. To go from a decimal to a percent, we scoop 2 places to the right. And to go from a percent to a decimal, we go 2 places to the left. So if I were to write negative 93% as a decimal, it would be negative 0.93 plus 0.3. I have different signs, which means we subtract, and we have more negatives than positives. So I know my answer is going to be a negative. And now I'm just going to set up my subtraction problem. I have to fill a 0 in, and that's going to leave us with negative 0.63. Okay, notice it does say enter the answer as an exact decimal or simplified fraction. So you could also write or negative 63 over 100. That would also be considered correct. Okay, here we've got 0.25 minus 1.125 minus 16 over 8. Well, first take a look at your fraction. What is 16 divided by 8? 2. So really, I'm just going to rewrite this with all decimals and whole numbers. So let's start with the first part. I'm going to do keep, change, change. We have different signs, which means we subtract, and we have more negatives than positives. So let's do that. I'm going to do step 1, 1.125 minus 0.25. Fill in a 0 as your placeholder. And we know we're going to get a negative here. We have to do a little bit of borrowing. 12 minus 5 is 7. We've got to borrow again. And 10 minus 2 is 8. So that leaves us with negative 0.875. And then the next step is to bring this down, minus 2. We're going to keep, change, change again. Now I've got same signs, which means I'm just going to add and keep. If you want to set up the addition problem, you can. However, if we add 0.875 and 2, we're going to end up with a negative 2.875. And that's your final answer. Okay, let's go to the next one. 79/40ths minus 162.5%. Well, first let's convert 79/40ths to a decimal. So 40 goes into 79 once. We get a remainder of 39. Bring the 0 down. 40 goes into 390 9 times. That gives me 360. We get a remainder of 30. Bring another 0 down. 40 goes into 307 times. I'm running out of room here. That gives us 280. And then we get a remainder of 20, and if we bring one more 0 down, 40 can go into 200 evenly 5 times. So I've got 1.975 minus, and then if I were to convert this percentage and scoop 2 places to the left, that's going to leave me with 1.625. So really we're just doing decimal subtraction. So 1.975 minus 1.625. 5 minus 5 is 0. 7 minus 2 is 5. And 9 minus 6 is 3. So that leaves us with an answer of positive 0.35 or 0.350. Either is fine. That 0 on the end is just a placeholder. Okay, so that does it for those 2 skills. The correlating note-taking packet pages are pages 4 through 8. And as always, if you'd like to see additional examples, you may watch the videos in Khan Academy. Have a great day, everybody.